This is an interview with Xoth singer and guitarist Tyler Splurgis by Nick Perkel on August 9th, 2020. Now, can you give me an introduction on yourself?
Hi, my name's Tyler Splurgis, or Tyler Sturgill is my real name now. Um, I live in Seattle and have for 10 years, and I've been playing music with Xoth and teaching guitar there while I've been there. And yeah.
Now, what was it like growing up in Idaho? And tell me about your early days as a musician.
So, there wasn't too much of a music scene uh, in Idaho back then. There was some, so we kind of stuck together with who we met, and like a lot of the concerts were in houses or alleyways, and not a lot of shows in actual venues. So then I started playing guitar when I was about 11 years old, right after I finished the fifth grade, and I was really into punk music like Bad Religion and The Offspring, and I liked kind of new metal stuff and kind of Roadrunner Records bands like Fear Factory and Slipknot, and those were the bands I really worshipped back then when I first got a guitar, and then it kind of all went from there. Yeah.
What is it like being a part of the Seattle music scene now?
It's good. It's changed a lot in the last 10 years as certain venues close and open, but I think overall it's probably better now, and there's more fans and more people are going to shows, and yeah, it's been pretty good recently. Well, before everything happened, and there's no concerts now, but up till then it was getting pretty good, and there's lots of great bands up here, lots of great people, and yeah, I like it a lot.
What were some of your favorite things you picked up from being at the Musicians Institute in LA?
It was great just being able to learn from so many great teachers of different styles and kind of like grow my appreciation of different genres and learning to play, not just shred metal, but jazz, funk, folk, just anything you wanted, and you kind of roll this all up into your own kind of music. That was great. And then just meeting so many peers that were just so dedicated to their craft, whatever instrument they were doing, and just being inspired, living that and breathing music 24/7 for 2 years straight was great. And also just coming from Idaho, where not a lot of tours came, and all of a sudden living in LA, where like every metal show happened. There were just so many. It just blew my mind being able to see all these bands I never got to see growing up. So it was like paradise at the time.
Now, I remember you were in an amazing death metal band called Phalgeron. Can you tell me about some of your favorite memories of the band?
I started that band with my roommate at Musicians Institute, Ian, the drummer, and then we met our bass player also at Musicians Institute. Some of my favorite memories were recording our first EP in Riverside, California, renting a U-Haul van and just sitting in the cargo with all the gear, sweating because it was like 100 degrees, no air conditioning, and just setting up at this studio called Love Juice Labs. And it was the first studio I'd ever been in that was, not a tape track at my friend's house. So doing that first recording was really amazing and kind of cool progenitor to everything else. And then we played a lot of cool concerts. Like we got to open for like Ailstorm and Tear and like Nun Slaughter, all at the Knitting Factory in LA. And those are still the biggest crowds I've played to, more than any I've done in Xoth or in Seattle, just because a lot of people live in LA. So that was just like sold out venues, and that was just really cool to experience that large of a crowd. And then just like that was all the first touring I did was in that band, so getting out on the road for the first time and booking my own tour was really great, and just kind of cutting our teeth in that project, and made lots of mistakes as well. But yeah, I really liked recording and getting out on the road for the first time with that band for sure.
How far back do you and your bandmates go in Xoth?
I met Jeremy, our drummer, probably 2010, 2011, as he played bass in this Seattle metal band called Shaded Enmity. We kind of were acquaintances. I didn't even know we played drums till years and years later. He was the first one I met. And then I met our other guitar player, Woody. We actually used to work together at the School of Rock in Seattle, and I met him in 2012. And when Phalgeron broke up, we actually started a cover band for 2 years there called Medieval Eternity, where we would do just mostly metal covers, but from Carcass, Merciful Fate, King Diamond, Iced Earth, we would just do all genres of metal and just have the cool metal supergroup cover band. And then I met Ben at a Medieval Eternity concert. I think it was the last one we ever played. So we played at the Highline in Seattle. This is 2014. And it's after the show, and this guy walks up to me. He's like, "Yeah, that was good, but you didn't play any Dissection." And then we got to talking, and he's like, "Yeah, I went to Musicians Institute, and then found out we had some mutual friends, and got to chatting, and then decided." I told him we were trying to start a band, and he said he plays bass. So after hanging out all night, laughing at the Area 51 arcade machine, we became friends then. And at that point, I had met everyone in Xoth. Yeah.
Now, can you tell me the history of Seattle's Hail Santa? And do you have anything you'd like to say on the possibility of a show this year?
So it was 2010. I had recently moved to Seattle. I'd been there for about a year, and I just had an idea to do a metal Christmas show just for fun and see if people liked it. And it was never planned to be a fest or a annual thing or anything. So put the first one on at this place called the Josephine. I think it was just 4 or 5 bands, and it was really good, and people really liked it. And we kept asking, "You going to do it next year? You going to do it next year?" And so I decided to do it again and again. And so the first 5 years were all at kind of smaller local venues, DIY kind of places, and it was all regional bands from Portland, Seattle, and other places around Washington and Oregon. After 5 years, it just started getting so big, like the venue was getting mad at me because it was in the newspaper and it was getting too popular, and it could have got them shut down because they were DIY. So I had to move it to the Highline, which is like an actual venue, and then. That was the first year I flew a band in. It was my friends in Witch Haven. And then that went off really well. So I decided to start, tying in, bringing in some bigger bands with the local bands, and kind of it just grew and grew. So it was cool to, bring a band like Macabre, one of my favorite bands of all time. I just kind of on a whim emailed their booking agent and was like, "Would you be interested in playing?" And stuff happens, and they played it, and it's just gotten bigger and bigger each year, which is really cool. I never expected that, and people really like it. So as far as this year goes, I don't have super high hopes of it happening, and so I'm usually start booking it around July, especially if you're going to bring in a headliner and have to organize all that. So I'd say if I do end up doing it, it would probably be smaller and just regional bands, because I'm not going to go through the stress of securing contracts and airline tickets and hotel rooms for a headliner that might not be able to come. So we'll see, but I probably not at this point is what it looks like.
Now, can you explain the process your band goes through to compose and record a song?
Yeah, so typically the music goes best when I have one of us or myself has an idea of kind of the theme or topic of the song. Just because, when writing, I like to visualize, the story or whatever's happening there. So really, I myself or with Woody, or we'll get on a Guitar Pro and notate out the music in a rough form. I'll just kind of tab it all out, and then we'll get together, learn the riffs, and then start playing it in our rehearsal space, see what works and see what doesn't from the MIDI programmed version of it, and kind of take the computer version and alter it and give it that real life band practice setting. And sometimes it takes a long time. It can take over a year to finish a song because we'll get writer's block and just move on to the next thing. And sometimes we'll go back and be able to finish it and become something good. And sometimes we throw it away. Yeah, there's a lot of notating at home, writing between Woody and I, and then bringing it into the practice space and playing with everyone.
Now, you've put out 3 albums since 2014. Can you tell me a bit about each one, as well as how the spirit of your band has evolved with each release?
So Hostile Terraforming was the first EP, and all the songs on that were kind of songs I had started writing before. Like, I met everyone in Xoth. They're kind of like post Phalgeron songs, and they just came in and we finished them all together. And originally I had planned on it being, like Phalgeron 2, more that kind of like folky epic metal kind of black metal style, but it started to evolve into something more technical and kind of space-like, you could say. So that was the first EP, and then Invasion of the Tentacube, I think, is just kind of like a continuation of that one, because we did re-record 3 of the songs for Invasion of the Tentacube that were on Hostile Terraforming. And that CD was that took a long time to write, 2 years, and we recorded it in Woody's basement, and it was freezing cold. And it was just, it was awful recording that album. It was so hard. So that was a real thing we had to persevere through. So I feel like going into Interdimensional Invocations and having spent, over 2 years writing that, but we had learned a lot and kind of planned ahead before recording that one. And we just felt really secure and charged up to record that album. By then we had kind of really figured out our sound and how we wanted to take it. So it kind of evolved from me leaning into my past more with Phalgeron and those albums into this new evolved sound that really incorporated what I wanted to do, but we really meshed as a group, and their voices came out stronger by Interdimensional Invocations, I'd say, and it shows. It's very proud of that and happy with what they put into it as well.
Now, can you point to any interesting songwriting techniques, like the use of arpeggios, experimenting with time signatures, or avoiding palm muting to make this album sound unique?
Yeah, really. So with techniques and stuff, or when we learn new techniques or new scales or new ideas, I kind of like to incorporate that. So if you learn this cool picking pattern or using this arpeggio, instead of just having that and running it as an exercise up and down in your bedroom, I like to turn that into music. So that's how we incorporate a lot of techniques. So I really like using cool arpeggios and changing key signatures and modulating that, and that's really fun to mess around with. As far as odd timing goes, the song the Ghost Hand of God is all in 7/8, and that was pretty interesting to work on that song and playing 7/8 at such a fast speed and writing solos over that. That was cool. And we made that track 7 out of 8 songs on the album, which is a cool little subliminal thing. And then palm muting. I mean, there's a lot of not palm muting and palm muting. And I think just that lends itself to the dynamics and all that stuff. So I think, just learning, as you learn new techniques, for anyone listening, if you learn a cool arpeggio, try writing it, change the exercise you learned, and change it up. Try to make music with it. So I always look at technique as a tool to write music with, not as just to sit there and make you better. So.
What kinds of things did you do for the updated version of Plague Revival on the new album that was originally released as a standalone single?
So it's a little faster. I think like 5 BPM faster. I put a lot more effort into the vocals, I feel like. And we just tried to get tighter performances overall and just our better recorded sound. Yeah, it was pretty subtle though. So mostly the speed, and I'd say the most important thing was doing the vocals better.
I think I liked Unseen Abductor the best. Can you tell me how that song came to be?
Yeah, so this will kind of tie into that previous question about techniques. So I'd been really messing around with finger picking, like chord melody stuff, and kind of like hybrid picking country sort of guitar licks. And I wrote the second riff in that song. That's, I guess, like the chorus melody. I just was like, I'm gonna write a cool hybrid picked metal riff. So it all started with that, and then that riff kind of sounded spooky to me, and so I listened. And I've been a real enthusiast and fan of, shows like radio shows like Coast to Coast growing up, and I always loved, when we'd have the Scholastic Book Fair, I was getting the goosebumps, or the books about Bigfoot and stuff like that. The strange, mysterious, paranormal stuff. It's just been a hobby of mine. So there's this kind of phenomena called missing 411 about people that go missing in national parks under strange circumstances. And I was kind of like listening and reading a lot about that at the time. And I was like, oh, that's a creepy riff, and that's kind of goes together. So kind of decided to write the song about people getting snatched up in the woods and getting taken to black site labs and experimented on, and kind of just expanded upon, used our imagination to write about that. So kind of that idea of the people going missing and, the spooky riffs kind of really inspired that. So with the vocals in that song, just a lot of frantic wailing, and just tried to really capture the terror that one might go through if you were abducted like that. So.
What's your philosophy on mixing death metal vocals with clean vocals for this new album?
So really, I feel like I kind of phoned it in and on previous albums, and kind of limited myself, and would almost think too hard, like, oh, if I do any sort of clean vocals on that, like people might judge us, and then as you get older, you realize that's absolutely ridiculous. So, some of my favorite bands are, Fear Factory, who always had big clean choruses, or Killing Joke that mixed, yelling and clean vocals. And I'm a really big power metal fan. I love Manowar, and I love heavy metal like King Diamond and Falconer and Halloween and all that stuff. Not that we're doing that yet, but so I decided just to not really put any boundaries or preconceptions on the vocals on this album, and just try to do whatever we felt like. And as far as like really clean singing goes, it's kind of like a mix. It's kind of like harsh clean singing on this one, I'd say, but I would like to, if I can get better at singing, we'll definitely put more and more of that on more albums going forward. So I figure just no reason to limit yourself and just do kind of high pitched black metal vocals forever. So we worked really hard on the vocals. It took longer. That's what took the longest to record out of anything. We spent a lot of time on this album compared to previous ones, and I think it really helped out, and I was very happy with the product of that.
Please tell me your experience on contributing to 2018's self-titled Blood Etchings album with your bandmate Woody.
Okay, so that was our good friends Seraph and Phil that played in that band, and I have been playing shows with them for a really long time, since 2009, 2010. As in not playing with the band, but our bands would play together, and they just had a lot of lineup troubles and would record, and then people would slack off, and then the recordings would be no good, and they just asked us to play with them, and we decided, yeah, we'll do it and help you get the record done. So it was cool, like learning someone else's music and getting kind of to embellish on it and help record. And yeah, that was a very fun little project we did.
Final words.
Final words. So right now, the world's on hold. We are slowly working on writing another album, kind of planning how to exist in this new world. And I just want to say we really appreciate the continued support, and really just blown away by how much people loved Interdimensional Invocations, and very humbled by it. And yeah, I appreciate everything and hope everyone sticks in there and is safe, and be with your family and your friends, and take it easy. Treat each other well.
This has been an interview with Tyler Splurgis by Nick Burkell on August 9th, 2020.
Hey, this is Tyler, guitarist and vocalist for metal band Xoth, and you are listening to Japan Nick's Rock and Metal Pandemonium.